Hey everyone, Margarita here. So I'm gonna pick up where I left off on that last video. So I basically gave a short version of what had been going on from the time I was 3-4 years old, where I did confront my mother about poisoning batches of food, and then her beginning to farm delusions about me with every single person around me, in her entire family, friends, co-workers, neighbors, everybody, so nobody would ever believe me. And then once I started school, my teachers, all the way until I was about 17, and then kicked out of school, which at the root was her crimes and her delusional phone calls and her delusional deranged actions, as a narcissistic Munchausen by proxy mother. Because Munchausen by proxy is not just poisoning food. It's also making someone look sick or physically making them sick. And that does not just mean physically. It can be mentally and or on drugs, which that is what she has been doing. Because I did not ingest the majority of her food after a certain point, although it did cause some permanent damage to my system. The majority of the Munchausen by proxy, when it comes to me, was done by portraying me to look like I have this mental disorder and this drug problem. And then once I had my 2 older kids, she gained all this praise from people from portraying me to look that way, and then presenting it to all these people as if I have this mental disorder and drug problem. And she had had custody of them all of these years, it's been 2 decades. And I had no clue any of this was going on to that degree for quite some time, before I figured it all out, until my injury became very extreme and I was left untreated, and then we really figured it out. So yes, that's all Munchausen by proxy. And at the same time, she has been poisoning my dad's food from that time when I was that small of a child to the current day. That has never stopped with him. And then she did do that to my paternal grandmother as well, all the way until her passing in 1999. And then she has done it to my older kids. She just didn't have full access to them the way she did me and my food growing up, because she did not raise them. They were not there on a regular basis, repeatedly, they were not living under the roof like that. I had custody of them. So she didn't have access to their food in the manner in which she did mine or my dad's. So minimally them, as far as I know, they have not suffered permanent effects of that. And my younger one is not allowed to eat the food. I don't believe if he has ingested any of it, it's been very minimal amounts ever, and only a couple times ever. So my dad is currently the primary victim of the Munchausen by proxy, which is another reason for my videos to come out urgently. So there's a reason I'm explaining every step of the way, explaining from my childhood, explaining how this all came about, how it got to where it is each step of the way and where it is today. There's a reason behind all that, because it all ties together. It didn't just happen last week or 2 years ago or 4 years ago. Everyone needs to understand where it all began, how it got each step of the way, and then where it is today. It's still going on. These are serious issues. My dad's life is on the line, especially because I've been banned from him for almost a year now on her crimes and delusions. Again, still portraying me to look mentally disordered, on drugs, a liar, a thief, a fraud, all these things that all these police officers believe her in 3 different departments. And then portraying me to look mentally disordered to everybody in my city, the police department, the city officials, and then when the Ford gas leak happened in 2021, those people as well. And I know she portrays people to, because I have Charmaine involved for 5 years, the main mental health professional involved today. I'm the one who hired her due to my mother's ongoing crimes and the crimes of the local police and all these agencies helping her commit the crimes. That's why I brought her in. She portrays it to others as if I have this mental disorder that's been ongoing all these decades, and that she's in control of my mental health care on my behalf because I'm so mentally disordered, and that's why Charmaine exists. So that's what she tells other people. No one realizes I brought her in to continue to document the crimes and watch the crimes play out in front of her face, which has been going on for 5 years now. So there's numerous factors here. It is very hard for somebody to understand the nature of this condition. It is a fairly rare condition. There's not many people who can understand where I'm coming from regarding all of this. There's very few famous cases out there. There's the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. Then there is the Eminem's mom case. There's numerous famous cases, and once this all blows, especially with the longevity of all this, because usually at some point the person is able to break free. In my situation, I was never able to, because she farmed this for so long and kept it going, and because I cut contact, that helped her be able to carry that out even further and present more false information and false circumstances along the way for a couple decades. So this is the longest running case of Munchausen by proxy. On top of it, it literally went from my paternal grandmother for some time, which then overlapped with me becoming the primary target, and then my dad as well. But I have been the primary target so from like 1999 to current, because it's still going on currently with me. My dad, once his injury became extreme 2 years ago, he then became her primary target along with me, but she had more, it's more easier for her to continue it on with him and with what has happened to him, with the poisoning of the food. But at the same time, she's still portraying me to look mentally disordered and or have a drug problem at the same time, and it never stopped. So the two of us are still the primary targets, but currently I believe he is still ingesting the food. It comes in waves. When she does it, there's triggers that cause her to do it. There's waves she creates where she'll go heavy with it for a minute. She almost gets caught, and then I start telling people, and then she backs up, pulls back, and stops. So there's waves of it along the way. There's patterns. You can see it within his medical file. And then the other issue is, I forget. Anyway, the problem is my dad's life is in danger. So I don't know, because I've been banned, I don't know if he's been rushed back to the hospital anytime recently or in the past 12 months since I've been banned. I'm not sure, but it was going on very heavily those first 15 months that I was there. Once she did start making her presence more, it was more frequent once he got to Specialty at the end of February 2023. And then it kind of progressed from there. So, yes, he's the primary target. Now, since I've been removed and she's trying to make me look crazy, she may have stopped doing it significantly, especially because the way I was telling on her, and I almost got people to like catch on and really see. It may not be going on as frequent, and it may not, or it may have stopped for a while, because she does stop for periods of time as well. And then what triggers her is bouts of jealousy and envy, certain circumstances that, like extreme jealousy and envy circumstances, especially regarding me, stuff that I achieve or am able to get things back in order after she creates extreme chaos, extreme destruction. When I'm able to pick up the pieces and finally start to line them back up, although I never get it all back in line. The ducks never get back in a row. It's never, I'm in living in extreme chaos and survival mode for decades on end. It's never stopped. So, with my dad, my main concern right now is with me releasing these videos, that is a trigger. So when I go to tell on her, she begins to poison him. Even before his injury, when I tried telling people what she was doing, this or that, she would poison him. And so I'm worried that currently, because I've been releasing these videos heavily and it is going to get back to her, the result is going to be she is going to poison his food. That's how she operates. So if he has been rushed back to the hospital since the releasing of some of my videos, I guarantee that's exactly what happened. So you would have to check with the visits on all that. I'm not really sure. But this is one of I believe this is the longest running case of Munchausen by proxy. And because she's still allowed to operate, she's gotten away with every single crime she's ever committed, and she has so many high-level officials in on this as well, participating in the crimes with her. The entire, so many systems are corrupt. I do believe it's maybe not every single individual, but it's certain individuals within certain departments of certain agencies that are directly involved, and there's a small unofficial group of these people who are all operating together. And in the background, they are operating to get me somehow, to get myself to be arrested or locked up long-term in jail, or somehow deemed mentally incompetent, and or killed. So the bottom line is she does not want me alive either. So I don't know how you think you're going to pull that off when I've been locked in my house for a couple months here. And it's due to the crimes in the Munchausen by proxy and the calls to the top of Ford Motor Company once the initial gas leak happened, and them believing I have a mental disorder. My son and I were never injured, which is why our hotel was cut off and why we were forced home to live in the gas particles when it was not technically all clear. It was EPA's all clear, which is not all clear. And actually it was not EPA's all clear for about 6 months. Just nobody knew that because everybody else's blood-brain barrier is intact. So you can view my video on that as well, how all that works. I did a sample with some bottles and some juices to kind of show what it's like living that way. But she portrayed to those people that she was in charge of my mental health care as well during all of, there was other instances where I had figured out that's what she was portraying to people and why Charmaine is involved. So nobody's listening to anything I'm saying. They've been believing her all these decades, and now she's telling them this. Even all the police officers, same thing. If they're calling Charmaine directly, and I did not give them her number, obviously that's what she's telling them, and they're reaching out to Charmaine directly, maliciously. So that's happened numerous times. It's because she's telling people I have this disorder. It's been ongoing all these decades. She raised my kids, and she's in control of my mental health care. None of that's real. Ever been real. Those are all delusions. So, the urgency is the fact that my dad's life is still on the line. I am not safe in my own home. Now it's created so many problems. I'm unable to even just safely go to the grocery store to get a few things without running into a police officer who's going to harass me on these delusions, because as they stated numerous times right here in my city, they're waiting to come back and falsely arrest me some more. Which has caused great bodily injury to myself. So you can view some of those videos as well. And this all needs to be put under control. It's not going to be until arrests are made. My mother is the ringleader. She needs to be arrested first. She needs to be not let out. She needs to spend the rest of her life in prison. And all of the first tier individuals involved in all of this need to be apprehended as well. And because many of these are police officers within an entire police departments, I do believe the U.S. Marshals need to be brought in on this. And the FBI laughs when I try to report it, even though I was instructed by the Toledo FBI to do what I've been doing the last 3 years, gather these documents, get my ducks in a row, start getting the evidence together. And then my dad fell and I got even more evidence. I have everything. I've done all my work. I've done all my homework. I have it all. And they directed me to go to an FBI office in Michigan, since that's where everything originated, where most of everything had happened. Although Toledo and Ohio does play a little bit of a role, because it did eventually follow me down there after I had initially had that conversation with them. However, I have been back in Michigan. Most of it is in Michigan. But all they do is laugh because they've never heard of such an absurd situation. They don't even let me present anything. I'm able to get about 2 sentences out, and as soon as I use the words "my mother," they immediately think of their own cookie baking mother. They laugh and they send me on their way. And I've tried numerous other agencies as well, even before my dad's injury. I've reached out to every avenue of law enforcement possible. This is not something I can report to the FBI over the phone or over an email. The evidence is in many forms, and it's within my possession. And there's other key points that I would have to fill in the blanks with, that I have the information, and where you can find the rest of what I don't have. Some of it was quite costly, and I could not pay for some of it because it's hundreds of dollars to get some of this, because there's so much. But I do know the facts and what's all going on, and I can prove the falsification of evidence within the Brownstown Police Department, false reports within their department, and the Flat Rock Police, and the Romulus Police, and numerous agencies, my falsified medical records, what I've had to spend out of pocket at a private facility. All this stuff is provable. I need to be able to sit down and present the case is the problem. But nobody wants to believe there's something going on to that degree. And there's very few people out there who can comprehend such an extreme degree in long-term criminal actions and which have turned into RICO crimes, and Munchausen by proxy, which is an extreme form of abuse along with narcissistic abuse. It's all kind of connected. It's all intertwined. But there's very few people who are able to comprehend the bigger picture of it all is part of the problem. Most people can't see beyond like one incident or two incidences. They can't see the ongoing effects. Each thing piggybacks off the last. The fallout keeps going from each one, and then there's fallout from 3 going on at once, and then another one's happening, and it just keeps going, and it's blown to an extreme level of disaster today, which is still going on today. So I cannot pick up the pieces of my life and begin to live a normal life until this is stopped. That's the reason for these videos. That is why it is urgent, along with my dad as well. I will never be seeing him again unless somebody stops all of this. Again, I have enough evidence and information to arrest her right now, and many police officers and other individuals right now, and have them locked up for the rest of their lives. I have that much proof. So the fact that nobody's listening to me, it's a very serious issue. I need somebody to take me seriously. There is hardly anybody out there who has the level of comprehension big enough to even understand anything that I'm saying. I believe, like, I guess the two people that I for sure could believe that may be able to understand where I'm coming from with any of this would be the Gypsy Rose or Eminem. Honestly, there wouldn't be anybody else that I could even like ask for help at this point to expose it to the degree I need it exposed to, when I'm sitting here telling you I've done all the work. But I don't really know where else to go with it. It's caused extreme destruction. It's also caused another problem, because had I had known that she was going to pull all this bullshit and get me banned from my dad a few months after returning to my home and starting to work on the damage to my home where the $100,000 in damage was done while I was gone initially during the first gas leak, if I had known that she was going to pull all that, I would have not let go the land payments on my other home in Ohio. And I would have kept my stuff there, and I would have continued to keep it there, because I would have went about using the insurance funds that I did receive a little differently, and I would have put the house back together here in Flat Rock a little differently. And I would have stayed in my house in Ohio, because Ford did spill 2 more times since I've been home, which has then affected my income. Again, I'm self-employed in numerous ways, but it has affected every aspect of my income and my health in many different ways over the years now. So if I had known she was going to pull that little escapade and get me banned, and this was going to go on long term, and this was going to play out fraudulently in probate court, and there was going to be other police departments threatening to falsely arrest me and promise false charges on me without investigation, if I known that it was going to go to that and I was going to still be banned long term, I would have never let the payments go on the land on the other home. So that way this home would be able to have been able to produce income all along, because I wouldn't need to be running to Romulus, Michigan every night for my dad, because I've been banned for a year. Now, if I would have known she was going to, because she creates so many chaotic disasters, that was another one she had created after I had already had, okay, so we're gonna get this all back in order. She created all those disasters. We're gonna get this back in order in this way. And I always got to have numerous streams of lines of how I'm going to go about things. And had I known that was going to happen, I would have kept the payments going down there and never moved my bed set and none of my stuff back here. I would have put the home back together. It would be producing income already. I just would have went about using the funds differently. I would have allocated everything differently and kept the other home going. So I could stay there, because then I wouldn't need to be getting to Romulus daily the way I had been all that time to get to my dad since I'm banned. So that has then again disrupted more income. It's creating another problem with the Chapter 13 bankruptcy that I'm already under. So there's all these issues. It's not going to stop. Somebody needs to stop this. This is not a cry for help and attention. This is a cry for justice. This woman is a deranged lunatic. She has Munchausen by proxy. She needs to be apprehended and stopped, and so do all of the agencies and people who work for them who are at the top tier level who are involved. At the very least, the top tier needs to be taken down with them. Again, this is going to require numerous federal agents and or the U.S. Marshals to apprehend the proper individuals at the highest tier of all this, because it's an unofficial group of people who are involved in all of this and these crimes against me directly as the target. Now here my dad's life is still on the line. You have all these agencies involved, It's beyond like any neurotypical person's level of comprehension, unless you have personally dealt with such an extreme circumstance yourself. Like I said, Gypsy Rose or Eminem would be the only people who may be able to possibly help me with something like this, because it's beyond anybody's level of comprehension. Now, I have spoken to the Wayne County prosecutor twice in the last 6 months. One time he told me to go get a PPO, which makes no sense because it's other agencies and people in her delusional calls that cause all of this. So that does me no good. There's no direct contact. There hasn't been for decades. What good would that do? That people still show up and operate on the delusions, believing that's real. A PPO is not going to do me any good. And the most recent time I talked to him last week, I believe somebody called on my behalf, and he thought it was me calling, and it was not. I still talked to him and told him everything. His response was to take my mother to a mental ward. He's not comprehending that nobody realizes she's a deranged lunatic and everything that's been coming out of her mouth for decades is delusions. No one realizes this but me and maybe a handful of other people. There wouldn't be us riding anywhere together. There is no contact. There is no relationship. So, makes no sense. And I kept telling him this, and then he told me to call Adult Protective Services. I said, what's that going to do? He's acting like I'm an adult child living in my parents' home. No, my life has been completely separate for 22 years. I've owned many different homes on my own. This woman has no contact. She's not allowed in any of my homes. This is not an Adult Protective Services situation. Yes, it's extreme abuse. She's using large agencies to do it for her because she has no direct access to me. So, again, beyond their level of comprehension. And then when I talk to the FBI offices, they try to tell me to go to the local police, and they have a hard time believing the local police are involved in the crimes, which I can actually prove. And I'm telling them I'm standing there, right there with the whole bag on my shoulder, with folders and flash drives and video and picture, with everything written out to present the case and show you what is going on. Still don't want to believe that the police are involved, and I've got copies and proof. So, big problem here. This does need to get situated. You know, I don't know where to go with this. There's not too many people who can understand something to this caliber. That's why it's still going on. It's so intricate and calculated and conniving. Like I said, just like the Pdiddy situation, she operates just like Pdiddy on all those laws of power, where you make sure you rock somebody's, you take their stability out from the bottom, you target how they make their money, you target their support system, you make sure people are acting on delusions and causing problems for them from the sidelines, and that's exactly how that type of thing works. Just like P. Diddy. How do you think he got away with all that for years and decades? That's exactly what's going on with my mother. Nobody wanted to believe that. Well, believe this. This is just like it's the same situation, just in a different form. So, I mean, like I said, all this stuff is provable. No one's listening to me. You know, I don't really know where to go with it, but that is something I wanted to mention. And then the other thing I want to mention is, because I brought up how she talks to people about, I dated this loser, or I'm dating these losers and this and that. What nobody's comprehending is I've been a single adult individual the majority of my adult life. I've been single. On my own, paying all of my own bills, owning all of my own homes, paying everything myself, owning all my own cars, taking care of everything on my own. Yeah, I may have dated a few people here or there before my injury. Nothing too serious. I don't combine with anybody. Everything is mine separately. And if I do that, those situations are kept separate and they don't even come to my home. 9 times out of 10, that person does not even come to my home or ever meet my children. The situations were always kept separate. I was always on my hustle, chasing the bag, kept everything separate, compartmentalized, as I always had to, for numerous reasons. Part of my mother's behavior and ongoing crimes are part of that. But it doesn't matter. Like, if I am going to date somebody, she's never met anybody that I've ever dated. She didn't meet my 20-year-old and my 9-year-old's dad until my 20-year-old was 9 years old. There's a reason for that. And the only reason the 9-year-old exists is because of her escapade in 2013, which I will get to in the next episode, because that's its own episode. And if it weren't for that, the younger one wouldn't even exist. I would have kept on building and building and building as a single individual, as I always had all those years. because that's what I've been doing. I build by myself. I had to provide everything for myself from a very young age. I don't put what I've built and everything I've had to work for by myself with no help. I don't put that at risk. There wouldn't be a reason to. The other thing is, I really only date soulmates. Now, I've had a very severe injury where I was completely incapacitated for several years, where I was completely laid out, unable to do anything or go anywhere, and just minimally, barely be able to get a little bit to work and back. And then COVID, I was off for 16 months, and that's what allowed me to continue to treat every day until I got to a certain point where I could have some more functionality and at least maintain my income solidly, even though it was very minimal still. Now, going forward, once I cross several thresholds, I just live a modified version of the life that I once had. So, yeah, like I might go on a few dates here or there, but at the same time, I still live a modified life. I'm not always okay. I live with ongoing continuous symptoms that wax and wane all day, every day. There's certain things I have to do upon waking up every day before I can do anything else. And sometimes I'm still not okay, especially if I've had exposures and things have happened, or there's spills going on, or it depends on what's going on and where I've been, or, I have to pretty much remain in a sterile environment. And that can be many places. It doesn't just have to be like one place. At this point, it's a little different. I can go some places. And it depends on how much treatment I'm having as well. So I do live a modified version of the life that I did have, but I've lived the majority of my adult life single for a reason. Because I've had to work 100 times harder than the average person, and I've built everything by myself. Nobody's going to be walking in and stepping into what I've built. That wouldn't be happening. I'm so high up on the chain, there isn't somebody who can match my level of fly, first of all. Second of all, I only date soulmates. I'm extremely advanced spiritually. I'm extremely advanced mentally and emotionally. Usually the people I talk to are much older than me for a reason, and it's because of how advanced I've always been. But I used to, when I did come in contact with more people, when I was working more, I came across more soulmates because I came across more people in general. But that is kind of how I operate. It's just a modified version of what I once had. And so any of these people I've ever had sexual relations with, let's just say, my mother's never met any of these people. She's out here running her mouth talking about these people I date, or that I date this loser and that and da 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 da. No, I'm 100% self-made, self-built, been paying all my bills for over 20 years, own everything by myself, built everything by myself. She doesn't know any of these people. She never met any of these people. What, like 2 people in 20 years you met? 3 maybe? And then, even then, I keep everything separate, everything's mine by myself. You don't know any of these people. So I don't know who she's telling about these losers I date and this and that. Nobody knows anything about anybody I've ever slept with. How about that? So, that part of my life is kept extremely private. Always has been. It's always had to be because of those delusions. And it's still going on today. All that delusion telling, all that flapping of the jaw, all this shit that isn't real. Like I said, that's also part of the reason I've never had social media. I keep everything private, everything that I've worked for, everything that I've built. I have a lot of jealousy and envy. It shoots right at me, right through a picture or what anybody sees. Like, no, I've never had any of that. Everything is kept private. I'm like a low-key celebrity who I had to have kept all of my life private, especially those parts of my life. What I have, what I've built, what I've worked for, what I've been building and working on, how I produce my income, and whoever the hell I'm fucking isn't anybody's business. Because I provide everything for myself. And again, there was delusions, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, being passed around about who some people seem to think I'm fucking. And it ain't even true. So, this has just gotten so far out of hand. This shit is disgusting. People need to mind their own business. Nobody knows anything about me. You don't know anything about any of the people I've been sleeping with for the last 20-some years. So back the fuck up. Get the fuck out of my business. Mind your own business or help me fix the situation, because everything everybody's been being told about me is delusions. On top of the fact that my dad's life is still on the line, I'm trying to get this situated so I can pick up the pieces of my life and maybe hopefully someday live a normal life. That's all I want. Please. That's all I'm asking for. There are people who can verify this and help fix this. I need people to place phone calls to federal agencies, letting them know that you have seen my videos and that you are a bystander who has witnessed some of what I'm talking about on these videos, and this needs to be investigated over here or over there. Maybe you don't know all of what's going on, but you've heard a part of it, and you do know that there is something wrong. Somebody needs to say something. Every person involved needs to call the federal government, either call to the top of the state, call the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, call the FBI. I don't care who you call. Get somebody that can listen and understand what's going on, because if enough people make enough phone calls, eventually somebody's going to look into it. Because I've literally explored every avenue I could on my own, and I'm out of options. So, my life is at a standstill due to this again. And this house should already be an Airbnb. My mother pulled another fast one, and her most recent little escapade a year ago, get me banned, has caused a hiccup within my business activities. So, if I had known she was going to pull that shit, I would have never stopped paying on the land on the other house. So that's created an additional issue and has led to the current problems I'm having. So yes, I need this all situated and put in order. That is also why I have a GoFundMe up. Not only that, but I need the rest of the damages to the home completed. It's about 70% done. I need a little bit more money to finish it. Still arguing with the insurance. There's been so many conversations with them negatively, and they're not even trying to do what I need them to do. So it's not like I can even sell the house either. So that would be like my next option. I mean, I usually have to have 4 to 6 options, but because my mother is basically cock blocking every angle of my business ventures and everything I do to make money and all these plans that I'm making, and I'm permanently disabled and I'm still self-employed, I'm still producing the income, but at the same time, she's blocking every move and disrupting every move, which has been going on and on and on and on for decades now. It's got to stop. So I need somebody to help me. Nobody's doing anything about it. Everyone's turning a blind eye, acting like I'm looking for attention. No, I'm coming out with the truth. I'm speaking the truth. Now that I'm actually able to string sentences together and tell my story, the truth needs to be heard. People need to be arrested, especially my mother, immediately. Now, I will be back with another one. Thanks. Bye.